Howdy, and welcome to On Stage at StageCenter, a community theater podcast recorded on set at StageCenter Theater in historic downtown Bryan, Texas. Make sure to check out our website at www.stagecenter.net to learn more about our upcoming productions, including Shipwrecked in entertainment, opening April 3rd and running through the 13th, with matinees on April 6th and April 13th. Make sure to visit StageCenter.net to get your tickets and learn how to support our theater today. Now, please take your seats, silence your cell phones, and keep your feet off the stage. You're listening to On Stage at StageCenter.
Hello, thank you for listening to On Stage at StageCenter. With us today is Kathryn Sutton. Kathryn, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're directing coming up.
Hi, I'm Kathryn Sutton. I am directing Shipwrecked in entertainment, The Amazing Adventures of Louis de Rougemont as told by himself. We just call it Shipwrecked because that's a long title. It's a comedy, adventure, fantasy realism piece about a real man named Louis de Rougemont and his adventures around the world. Starts out in Victorian England, takes us all the way to Australia. We get to see all sorts of like magical sea creatures, and there's, ships and battles and all sorts of crazy adventures, but it's super fun.
So a lot of tech is what I'm hearing.
So much tech. Oh my gosh. A cool thing about the show is that the tech it starts very, minimalist tech. It's very
realistic.
So it's a lot of like you see the actors doing it. We'll have at the beginning, it's going to be a lot of like live Foley sound. So we'll have like rain sticks and stuff, and you'll see the actors like pulling stuff out. But as it becomes more grand and fantastical, that's when we add in more elements that seem less real. That's when we'll use like more like lighting effects, right? And all sorts of that stuff. So I'm excited about that. We're also going to have shadow puppets, which I'm super, super excited about.
So one thing that we do a lot here is we have the flats, and you're notorious for not using them.
Yes, absolutely not.
So
no doors, no flats.
What is your scenic design? What are you thinking about that when it comes to Shipwrecked?
So no walls, bare stage, of course. I want to do collections of like crates and barrels and trunks and boxes that stuff can be taken out of. I want to do what someone coined as found object theater. So that's like seemingly innocuous objects becoming different things in a scene, like a piece of rope being pulled up and used as like, oh, this is a guardrail now, and we're like on a hot air balloon or something, you know what I mean?
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have like nets that will become a boat. We're gonna have, you stand on a trunk and suddenly you're surfing, like that sort of like, I want a bunch of pieces around that don't seem like anything when you first see them, but like as they come together and tell a story, it's like kids playing pretend.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Is the vibe.
So is that one of the themes you want, is like that imagination and having people come in and realize that's what you should do, is imagine things. You should tell stories. And is that something you want people to come in?
The author's note or the playwright's note at the beginning of the script talks about like a loss of imagination, from like, he talks about like on TV, like you see too much, like they show you exactly what they want you to see is there. And people like have lost imagination because they've lost the ability to think, oh, this is what this is supposed to be.
Right.
Everything is taken so literally because we have the technology and all the stuff to make it literally. But if, you're on stage and you're describing like a man riding on the back of a giant turtle, unfortunately, we do not have the budget for a giant turtle. And I feel like there's some animal activists who might be upset about that. So you have to imagine it. We have to create that image with acting, with these like pieces that we put together, with puppetry and with all these other like theatrical elements that have kind of been lost in a lot of ways in a lot of different spaces. And I think this show is an opportunity to enliven imagination in audiences. And I think that's why it's such a great piece for families. Yeah.
And is that something that drew you to the show, was that imagination aspect of it?
Yeah, I think this show is really beautiful. I think it's a really cool exploration of not only imagination, but like what it means to like tell the truth and the juxtaposition of, juxtaposition. I'm using SAT words. I don't know what they mean. When you let truth get in the way of telling a good story, and which is more important. Like, is it more fun if it was a giant squid that attacked my ship, or if we just ran aground because someone didn't do their navigation correctly, right? Which is more interesting to tell an audience, what are people going to read? And I think it's about storytelling itself, which I've always been really drawn to. And I saw a production of it when I was in high school, and I fell in love. And the found object theater of it all shows The Old Man and the Old Moon, which is a Pigpen theater production, shows Peter and the Starcatcher, that kind of whimsical and seemingly so simple shows that are actually super complicated.
Right.
That's my favorite genre. And so this show really fits into that genre.
Outside of tech, auditions are coming up as well. What are you looking for when you're casting the show, and kind of what is the cast going to look like in terms of characters?
So it's a 4-person cast. There's one actor who's going to play Louis de Rougemont throughout the entire show at the various ages in his life. And so that's going to be young Louis, medium Louis, and old Louis, medium.
Medium Louis.
You're medium Ben. I'm young Kathryn. So that's going to be one actor. And then the 3 other actors are going to play everyone else that he interacts with in the story. So that's going to be a lot of it's going to be a lot of work with physicality, showing that you're all these different characters. And then that's going to be a lot of voice work. Every character has a different voice. There's a dog. So if someone can bark real good, we'd love to see you. And that's also going to be a puppet. And I love puppets. Don't audition for the show if you don't like puppets. There's going to be so many of them. So we're looking for a lot of, to answer your question, actually, we're looking for a lot of energy, and we're looking for a lot of bold choices. A lot of as over the top as we can. This is vaudeville. Yeah. This is huge. This is over the top, bordering on melodrama.
Okay. One thing that you've directed in the past, you've directed Lear and Burial at Thebes. So how are you approaching directing this as an over-the-top comedy versus the tragedies that
really sad? I keep killing people, and in the play,
soundbite right there.
In the play, I promise. I'm excited. I think there's I think a big maybe not misunderstanding is the right word, but I do think there's a misconception maybe that in theater it's harder to do drama than it is to do comedy. Drama's easy. Be sad. We can all do that. Easy. Oh no. Your whole kingdom's falling apart. Where? Be upset about it. And that's great. And that's super fun for me. But comedy is so much more choreographed. And I'm really excited, or in a lot of comedies are, there's improv and that sort of thing. And I think the cool thing about this show is how specific it is. And I think it's going to be an interesting challenge to get into the beats of every single movement and how we can make it all not only funny, but heartwarming. And I think I don't want to lose the aspects of love that went into writing this piece And, you know, it is, you know, a very funny, sweet, sad, sort of sinister show. And I think all of the aspects packed together make it so fascinating and interesting. And it's going to be a big challenge. It's not easy like Shakespeare, ancient Greek tragedy, like I'm used to doing. But it'll be fun.
And no one's going to die on stage either.
Well, we'll see. That's a spoiler. We don't know.
Maybe it may happen.
Maybe, but it'll be funny.
Knowing you, it will be a funny death. So you've done a lot of professional theater and doing props and different things tech-wise for professional theater. So how do you approach doing it professionally where you may have a budget to do what you want versus doing it at a community theater where you kind of have to play on that imagination more?
Yeah, I think I've worked at a bunch of different professional theaters at a variety of levels, right? I've worked at shows where, you know, we're borrowing every single thing that we can, you know, I've used moldy paint where we just scraped the mold off the top of the paint can and then you use the rest of it and you're like, sorry. We're like, it's fine. We cut off the mold. It's all right. But then, you know, I've worked shows with like $1 million budgets and it's like super overwhelming. And I, when working in community theater, what's really nice is that you know that everyone who is there to have a good time, and everyone's there to support the same goal. And it's less like people looking out for themselves, and you know, like it's not like a weird like competition thing, which is really nice. And I think putting on a show with like, you know, less than $1 million budget is a fun challenge in a lot of ways. Sarah Rull, who wrote Eurydice, she talked about how she loves to go see, I don't know if this is the word that she used, but like cheap productions of Eurydice, because that show, she wrote it in a way that it's like impossible to stage. Like this whole thing with like a water elevator, and there's like this whole, like there's so much like magic in that show that you can't literally do all of it. And she's like, I love watching like low budget productions of that show because it forces creativity. And I love that challenge to be like forced into creativity. And I think this is a really, really fun show to do that with. You know, we've got giant turtles and squids and the Queen of England, and there's a million different people on stage and the hustle and bustle and crowd and everything. And it's like, we're going to incorporate all of it, and you're going to get all of it for, you know, for how much are tickets? For
under $20.
For under $20. Wow, what a deal.
What's something you hope, with that hustle and bustle and the comedy and everything, what's something you hope comes out on stage? Is there a joke in the script that you really like, or a scene that you really like? And how are you planning on trying to bring that out? I hope the audience gets the full humanity of Louis by the end of the show, because he, you know, he's trying to portray himself as this like larger than life character, and we slowly learn that he is truly just a man. Right. And I think that is so humbling. And I think a lot of people will feel a lot of different ways about him by the end of the show. You know, some people might love him or hate him or whatever. And I think that's a deeply human experience. What's so fascinating about this play is the character of Louis himself and the way he wants to be a legend more than he wants to be a person. And I think at the end of the show, he is just a man. And I think that is so beautiful. And I think whatever people take from that is what I want them to. Right. Like, does that make sense? Yeah, it's okay to not be this big mythical legend. Yeah. And just be
a human person. Right. Yeah, yeah. And I think there's nothing more magical than that. Yeah. At the end of the day, we do all of these fun tricks and, you know, smoke and mirrors and whatever. But at the end of the day, human people are the most fascinating, beautiful things out of everything.
Right. So is there anything else you'd like to add before we
come audition? Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on the show. make sure to come audition. And it opens the first weekend of April. And it's for 2 weekends with 2 matinees.
That's right. Double the matinee, double the fun.
All right. Well, thank you, Kathryn.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to On Stage at StageCenter. Don't forget to mark your calendars for Shipwrecked in Entertainment, opening April 3rd and running through the 13th, with matinees on April 6th and April 13th. Make sure to visit www.stagecenter.net to buy tickets and learn how to support our theater. We look forward to seeing you at the show and seeing you on stage.